Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to bring your factory 1022 trigger, it doesn't matter if it's the new polymer box one or if it's the older one, down to a more usable and more consistent 2 to 2.5 pounds. Instead of the factory, I think it's somewhere between 5 and 7 pounds. The one that we're working on, I'll show you on screen, is somewhere between 4.5 and 5 pounds. And the biggest problem with that, when we're talking accuracy, is when you pull the trigger, because it's a polymer trigger shoe and a polymer group as well, it flexes the trigger shoe itself, and makes it it just makes it very. It doesn't give you great consistency, and that's where accuracy comes from. If you're consistent and can do everything the same way every time, you'll get good groups. So we'll just jump right into it. I did a video on this years ago, I don't know, and probably a year ago, and I did the modification to my own 1022 and to one of my friends, and you'll be able to see here on the small camera that on the hammer, I'll show you the unmodified version first. This is where the sear catches it, holds it back, and when you pull the trigger, put on this here. So the sear catches underneath. When you pull the trigger, it drops out the sear, it swings forwards and hits the hammer, or the firing pin. So what we're going to do is on the bottom of it, this little ramp here is where the sear latch comes down and rests and pushes up against the little engagement here. What we're going to do, instead of what a lot of people do with getting sear stones and searing it down a little bit, or wearing it down, flattening it down, polishing it, we're going to raise up the opposite side. So we're going to raise up this surface here just a tiny bit. And what that'll do is it'll give the sear less travel before the disconnect. Now the beauty of this one is if something goes wrong and you do too much, you can just take off the chemical metal and you're back to a factory trigger. It's a lot less risky than trying to stone your own trigger or your own hammer the first time by yourself. So what we're going to do is the things you're basically going to need. You're going to need a file or something that's strong enough to mark or etch this hard metal. A Dremel will work if you have a good rotary disc on it. But we're going to mark it just so we get a bedding that the chemical metal will stick to. Now the chemical metal I'm using, and I always use for bedding and jobs like this, is JB Weld. There's a lot of stuff out there, but this stuff is rock solid. Once it sets, it's there. Mine has been on this trigger here, and you can see the little ramp I'm talking about. And it's probably 0.5 millimeter raised compared to the standard. But mine's been here for, I don't know, maybe 3,000 rounds or more, a long time. Hasn't chipped, hasn't done anything. That's how good this stuff is. If you're doing this, I wouldn't go with the cheapest stuff out there. I'd definitely go something that's good high pressure chemical metal or compound to get this to work correctly. So all it does is it raises up this lip here so that the sear falls less distance before it stops. So you've less distance to travel when you're pulling the sear off to take the shot. And that's basically it. So first thing we're going to do is I've already degreased this so it's nice and clean. I'm just going to get a Dremel and I'm just going to cut a little mark there, because if we don't, the chemical metal will chip off. It just won't stick to it. We have to mark this metal or else it'll fall off eventually, and you don't really want a little bit of chemical metal bouncing around inside your action. So that's all the machining you have to do and you can be, as long as you stay away from the actual disconnection surface on the sear, you're fine, because nothing actually slides on this. All this is the surface that the sear resets to. It doesn't matter if it's not totally smooth, and for this purpose we don't want it to be perfectly smooth. So what we're going to do now is, I've already mixed up some the JB weld here. We're just going to put a little daub on it. This stuff takes a long time to go off, and it helps with a little bit of warmth, so it'll be the next day when I finish this. We're just going to work it in. There's no air gaps, and it doesn't matter how much over it is, because we can easily go back. And if you put too much on, or if it's too messy, you can easily take it off and start again. So we're just going to put a daub on. This will fall back and go back into itself. And that's all we need. It's going to flatten itself out into a little lump like that. And I'm just going to bring it right up to the edge. But if it doesn't work the first time, you can do it again. You're only using a fraction of the JB weld. And just use the other end to clean up anything. So we don't want any of the compound up inside this area here. We just want it on the surface before it. And as I said, nothing goes in there, because you're not going to mess with anything in any of the workings of the action. And if it's done correctly, you'll be fine. Now, this is going to be set, but what needs to be done now is, once it's set, we're going to put it back into the gun, and you'll find that your safety won't work. Now, this is kind of the same as a Remington adjustable trigger, or a Howa, or a Weatherby. If they're set to too little sear engagement, the safety will not work. Now, it's not intentional, but that's the way this works. So if you put it in and your safety is not working, you need to take it back out and sand down, file down a tiny little bit more of the compound, put it back in, try again, until you get a good safety lock, and you get a good, well, your trigger, at that point your trigger will be down in around the 2 to 3 pound mark from the enormous 5 pound mark. So for now, that's all we're going to do. I'm going to come back tomorrow. I'm going to finish machining this, and the whole thing with this whole build is it's stuff you can do at home. So I'll see you tomorrow when this is set, and we'll get to putting it back together. And you can see how they compare there, and how low this actually is compared to that. But this is how I do my triggers. It's safe. It has never failed. If done correctly, it will never wear out, and it gets you a nice trigger without having to shell out a ton of money on a brand new kit. Even I think it's over $100 easy for just the trigger kit for the 1022 that installs in your housing. If you're getting entire housing, it's very expensive. But we'll set it at that, and we'll see you in a couple of hours. Now, it's been about 15 hours, and the compound is set. You can see it here. It's just a dark color, and we're going to just work it down to a surface that will be more in line with the height that we need to sear. If I put this into this trigger group right now, the safety won't work, but the hammer also won't lock, just because it's so high. So what I'm going to do, I'm just going to get a bit of nice light sandpaper and put a hard surface behind it. In this case I have an old 1022 rail, little dovetail rail, and I'm just going to just sand it down a tiny bit. We're just going to go bit by bit, because it's going to sand back the high part near the actual hammer face, or the back of the hammer face, because that's the bit we're not really going to need to be too high at all. That's not going to contact. So that's going to come right down. So now you can see it flattening out there. This surface up here, this surface here, this little lump that we need to bring down, that's where the little sear actually catches. So I'm just going to do it this way so it's kind of easier for everyone to see. If I can, it's just this surface here. Okay, just going to install this now. I'm going to see if it works. If we're getting a catch, if we're getting a safety, then we should be okay. If we're getting a catch and no safety, we're going to have to bring it down a little bit more. So there's nothing in this except for the ejector and the bolt lock and the trigger itself. There's no other mechanism in here, just so it's easier to work with. And I'm just going to get the pin. Okay, so we do have trigger lock. Oh, and it's super light. I'm actually going to I'm going to weigh it just so you can see. So I'm going to put the spring back in. So I'm taking a guess right now that the safety is not going to work. Actually, it's just at the point where it's not able to hold the pressure of the spring. So if you look at that, it's just, you can hear the click, but we're not getting it. And so it's just starting to fall into the area we need, but we're getting nothing. And I'm not sure if you can see into the little window here, but there's a click. The sear goes to drop, just not enough clearance to get all the way in. So we're going to start going a little bit at a time now. And if we actually try as well, the safety will not go all the way across. So if you see the safety little red mark there, it will not push all the way through, which means we got to keep going. So what we're going to keep shaving a little bit off each time until the safety makes it all the way through. Then we know we're good to go. So we're just going to knock out the spring and you push through the pin. Check out the hammer. And this is fine work now from this point on. We've the majority of the work done, and you can see on the camera, hopefully, a little black mark just there where the sear falls, and that's the bit we need to just shave down. So it's not back here, all this is just for strength. Just at the very tip, there's a little black mark where the sear falls. We're just going to take that off. Just kind of square it up. Okay, we'll try again. Okay, we've definitely got sear lock this time. Just going to drop in the spring. Okay, so as you can see, we have sear lock. Ooh, the trigger is nice and light. But will the safety work? No, the safety will not work. So safety is across, but it's still firing. So at this point, it would be not safe to use this trigger. Even when the hammer is released, the safety will not push all the way through. So we're going to have to take it down a little bit more. Not a whole lot. We're almost there. And that'll give us the trigger pull we're looking for. So I'm going to take it out again. And again, you can see the little black mark where the sear is making contact. It's going to bring it down another tiny bit. Now I'm talking just a couple of swipes with the sandpaper, nothing major. Square it up a bit. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, I'm going to drop in the spring because I know we're going to get a lock. Safety is working. Okay, so that's the important part. Okay, the safety, as you can see, is all the way through. Okay, ready to fire, not ready to fire. No firing, firing. Okay, now what we're going to do is we're going to weigh the trigger to see what we've actually brought it down to. Because as you've seen before, we're fluctuating between a 4 to 5 pound trigger. I'm just going to take a quick guess. This is somewhere now definitely in the region of 2 to 3. So now you can see exactly how it's done, why it works, and why it won't fail. What's going to happen is, as it settles in even more, it might add a little bit of weight to it, but you're talking in the ounces. It's not going to add a whole pound or anything like that. But right now, this trigger is nice and crisp. There is absolutely no flex in the trigger blade, which is really important. And very importantly, trigger works perfectly. Okay? And the sear is not going to release under any banging, even with the safety off. Okay? It's completely safe, and it's almost unmess-upable. If you take off too much, you can put more on. If you don't put enough on, you can put more on. If you want to go back and say, screw it, I don't want to do it this way, you can take all the metal off. It's not going to affect anything. The metal we do remove isn't touching anything. It's literally just there to give us a good bedding. So that's how I do my 1022 triggers. It's never failed on me. You can see how easy it was. And what we're going to do now, we're going to install this into this action here. This is the one we've been testing with. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to swap out the barrel, and that'll be in the next video. So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, just send me a question below in the comments. And if you thought this helped you, or you're going to try it yourself, please ask me any questions you want. And if you found it interesting, please subscribe. Thanks very much for watching. Bye.